And we're live. No intro. Not even sure what happened, but we're live. We've been on the air for about a minute, and hopefully you can hear me. If you can, please drop a comment down below. I'm John Phillips. This is Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. I'm telling you, folks, I'm learning, I think. Here we go. Hey, thanks for tuning in. We're going to spend the hour talking about a couple different things. The Pirates had some news today. How about the Pirates making some noise? We'll probably carry that into the back half of the hour. I'm on the air from 7 to 8 tonight. I am still home. Did not go to Dayton. That's at 3 a.m. later today. More obviously on the DK Metcalf stuff. This has accelerated as it normally does in scenarios of this nature, unfortunately. And look, I will talk about this lunatic in Detroit and his part in all of this. Not a fan, obviously, of deranged fans. Right. There's a lot of finger pointing that can easily be done here. The fan, DK Metcalf for what he did, the league itself, Detroit as a football organization, the league itself. There's a lot of blame to go around for this thing happening on Sunday. I'm the firm camp of that, but I see a lot of craziness out there on social media. It's one of the reasons why I don't post as much as I do. Because the discourse is ugly, and there are some ugly people out there saying things that just aren't true. Okay, we'll talk about the use of the hard R and the word you're not supposed to use a little bit later on here. I do want to talk a little bit, obviously, about the Steelers scenario right now, the playoffs. Just a little bit more from thoughts from yesterday as we get into this hour here of Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. John Phillips with you. Thanks again for joining us. If you want to comment, if you're on YouTube or Facebook or X, we are live tonight on all those social media sites. You are welcome to leave a comment. We will be happy to take comments from all of you that are out there this evening. If you have something that you want to say, Mike Tomlin's press conference today, nothing really come out of that that was neither tragic nor explosive. He's obviously keeping quiet on the DK situation as he should. But I just want to talk about Mike Tomlin again here for a minute. Now, look, I've been one of the guys that have been not a detractor. I mean, I respect Mike, and he's done extremely well, and he's won every single time. They've asked him to go out and win regular season games, and he's done that for 19 years, right? We can talk about the record and all of that stuff, if you will, but Mike Tomlin once again continues to do things that other coaches in the history of this league just simply cannot do. He's now the 11th coach with 200 wins. That includes postseason. He's the third youngest at age 53 to get there. Only Don Shula and Curly Lambeau reached the 200-win mark at an earlier age. So, Mike Tomlin and this was something that we kind of missed on Sunday. Even yesterday, I saw that post this morning, and I wanted to mention it. Again, Mike's going to come back for a 20th season. He's going to come back for a 20th season, and the way this team rallied around him, the way that he's gotten this 42-year-old quarterback to just look in command. And I want to talk a little bit more about Aaron Rodgers and what he's doing at the line of scrimmage. He's taking over. I don't know how much of it is Art Smith's offense as much as it is Aaron Rodgers making plays up in the dirt as things go along. So we'll get into that here in a moment. But again, just Mike Tomlin, for what it's worth, I'm crossing my fingers he wins a playoff game this year, maybe two. I don't know if they'll go to the Super Bowl. I've heard somebody yesterday, I think on the fan said, "Oh, they're Super Bowl contenders." I mean, they're having a nice little 3-game run right now, right? They're having a nice little 3-game run. Again, they beat Baltimore on the road. Say what you want about Baltimore this year. They're definitely down, but they're still Baltimore, and it's a road game. They beat a Miami Dolphins team that had won 4 in a row and 5 of 6, including waxing Buffalo, and they did that in convincing fashion, and they just boat raced Detroit in the second half on Sunday. They went into the half 10-10. They got that amazing touchdown catch from their I've lost track of the names. Kenny Gainwell, incredible catch by Kenny Gainwell, right? They go in 10-10 at the half, and then they have the big second half, and they just run all over Detroit and get the victory. And Mike has done it again. So I wanted to give him some laurels coming out the gate again, because I didn't address Mike until the very end yesterday in the first half hour, talking about the Steelers before we got into some Riverhounds talk. I thought it would be very fair to just kind of, give a little bit more kudos to Mike Tomlin for what he has managed to do, which is right a very ugly ship 3 weeks ago. I mean, it was bad. The Buffalo loss, coupled off the loss to Chicago, and then they had lost 3 of 4 at that point. It was pretty bad, the worst it had ever been. And he's clearly heading in the right direction. Let's see how things turn out Saturday before this team has to worry about whether or not they're going to need DK Metcalf to win one of 2 final games, right? Cleveland is reeling right now, and Mike Tomlin's record against rookie quarterbacks is just like some ungodly percentage. He wins like 80% of the time. So, it hasn't been great on the road, but he's certainly done very well for himself in that particular statistical category, right? Off a bye, right? Underdog on the road. Nobody's picking him. Nobody's picking his teams to win. Well, that's another statistical advantage that Tomlin has had over his career when he faces a rookie quarterback in Shedeur Sanders, right? Everybody wanted to anoint Sanders when he beat the Las Vegas Raiders, for crying out loud. They haven't won a game since. The fickle position. It's a hard position to be successful in. And a lot of times, unfortunately, it seems like this thing comes down to racial issues. And that's where we're going to dive into this whole DK Metcalf stuff here, because it's, I think social media has good place in society. I think there's definitely some spots of social media that are good and wholesome, and they can be positive. But boy, what's been going on over the last 48 hours, really, right? Since this Looney Tune, I forgot his name already. I think I found him. Somebody had called him out on social media. His name apparently is Ryan Kennedy. Okay. And he's been a longtime Lions fan. He goes to games, but apparently he acts like a lunatic sometimes, right? Fans are fanatics, right? Where did a fan come from? It spawned off from the word fanatic, right? So this guy goes and has obviously some sort of history where, he calls DK Metcalf by his birth name. That's the story, at least. Right? Until it becomes he said this about me. He said something that he shouldn't have said. He said the magic word, the word you can't use, right? And that's what it comes down to. It becomes a he said, she said thing. Or he said, if you will. DK Metcalf claiming the guy used a racial slur. Said something bad about his mother. Apparently that happened last year or 2 years ago. Same scenario where Metcalf and this fan kind of interact with one another at a Lions game. All right. And a complaint was made to the league, but nothing happens. Why is it that the NFL isn't getting more heat in this scenario? That's for starters. And the Detroit Lions. Let's just start there before we get to the crazy fan and what DK Metcalf did, and we'll talk about his contract. There was a lot of that going around yesterday and today, and the implications of what he could be losing in terms of like upwards of $40 million. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. I want to get to all the craziness surrounding this story, whether or not somebody, a fan, a deranged fan, right, said something he shouldn't have said to a professional athlete, and specifically that word, right? He said that word. And I watched a lot of people on social media today, a lot of people, and you find out who the race grifters are, and you find out who the ones are just looking for the story, right? What's the real evidence here? What do we really know? Not what people are inciting through their rhetoric, right? Claiming that, a racial slur was used. We don't know that. What I do know is that section was filled with fans in every seat. Okay. And we've seen several now, 24 hours later, a new video surfaces that's even closer than the TV cameras were. And we don't hear any kind of racial slur coming from this goofball. But yet you've got people on social media with hundreds of, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people following them, putting stuff like this up. This person is apparently played at Ohio State University, has like over 100,000 people following him on social media. This Robert Littall. I mean, look at that. We have a fundamental problem. We've lost our minds today in this world when that's the kind of stuff, and it's on Facebook, it's on TikTok, it's on a bunch of other platforms. And again, I'm not defending this Ryan Kennedy guy, but we need to know unequivocally whether or not those words were uttered. And if there's no evidence of that, when you see things like this being put up on social media, what you've got here is this guy here is basically telling a bunch of other people who follow him, who may not be as bright as him, to go out and commit some acts of violence, basically. Hey, go find this. That's the message. And that's dangerous. But that's the weird society that we're in. And I push back on stuff like that for a reason, because it's not acceptable. We don't know that word was uttered. If there was some sort of clear evidence with fans that were right there, and there were people that were right up on top of that, there would probably be statements by now. Somebody would be able to corroborate that. And if nobody heard it, and they're not willing to corroborate it, that's part of the other problem. Again, the fans should have never been allowed in a building again. If there was an incident that happened a year ago or 2 years ago, whenever it was, between he and DK Metcalf inside that building, and the league and the team did nothing about it, shame on them. That's who I have a real problem with here to begin with, right? Because Metcalf's a human being. We don't know what he heard. We have some idea of what was said by this fan. We don't know about anything using a racial slur, that's for sure. Metcalf came up to him. Bad move, number one. Where Steelers security or team security inside the building was, number two, to stop him. That was a whole other failure. But for Metcalf to reach up and grab him and then shove him away, it wasn't a punch. He was just kind of pushing him away, if you will. Whatever he grabbed, his shirt, his hair, his wig, whatever it was. Bad for DK Metcalf. Got to keep composure. And it's hard. It's hard to say something like that because we're not in that moment. And maybe he doesn't like to hear his birth name. But take it up with your parents. How anybody would find out that he doesn't like that? But that's the deranged lunatic that this fan is, apparently, right? He knew this. But the fact that he got back into the building with Metcalf and on the sideline of the Steelers and was able to somehow get his attention, it's a major failure by the league and the Lions, quite frankly. Major failure. And then you've got everybody, that wants to, see some harm done to this guy. Again, here's another post by this Robert Littall individual. I wish he beat his ass on the sidelines. What possesses a human being to put something like that out on social media? What possesses somebody to do that? If not they themselves have the IQ of a grasshopper. He's asking for he's essentially sending a message out. Hey, it's okay to commit an act of violence like this against somebody who does that. FAFO. You're going to poke the bear. This is where professional athletes today, and this is the whole cause of social media. It everything has been ratcheted up because we're constantly on our phones and we're putting out our opinions, or we're engaged with somebody, or I think the way that individual does, he's that subliminal message or that direct message again is dangerous. Again, not taking the side of the fan here. I have no interest in doing that, right? He should have never been in the building, is my point. The league failed. The Detroit Lions failed. Security failed. You see a player walking up to some stands in the middle of a game, you can't allow that to happen. It's an epic failure on a variety of levels here. And this Ryan Kennedy, God only knows where he's at right now. I thought he's probably hiding somewhere. He's got to be. I went on Facebook and I saw some Facebook page, got like 140,000 followers. Big giant picture of the fan with racial slur, big giant yellow letters underneath him. Really? That in and of itself is inciting potential violence. Like, it's dangerous. But it'll go unnoticed. Nobody will care. Nothing will happen. It's weird. It's really weird. And again, Myles Garrett. How many years ago was this Myles Garrett, Mason Rudolph thing? It's like 7 years ago. Was it 2019 or 2018? It was before the pandemic. I'm almost certain of that. I think it was 2019. Where Garrett, went bananas. He went crazy. He's trying to sack Mason Rudolph. I think he actually got him down, but he claimed Rudolph used that word, and he went nuts. And what happened? The league investigated, not to mention the fact that there's like 12 players within 5 yards of all of this, most of them African Americans. And I'm sure if Mason Rudolph would have said that, I'm sure they would have joined in. League investigated that, and guess what? Nothing ever happened. Nothing ever happened. Why? Because it was never said. It was never said, folks. It didn't happen. Just like poor Danny Griffin and this Marlon Harrison character from the USL season, the Riverhound season earlier in the year. A game in September in Hartford. In extra time. These two players lock up. Next thing you know, Marlon Harrison's flipping out, claiming that he was called a racial slur by Danny Griffin. It was a scene. 10-minute melee. The Hartford team walked off the field. The referees had to call the game. Griffin receiving death threats. League investigates. Nothing. Nothing. Referees, players nearby. Nobody heard it. Nobody heard that word. What happens to poor Danny Griffin? He has to go through hell. And then on top of that, the Athletic don't apologize, and the clown soccer player never apologized. In fact, when they came back for the playoff game, late October, early November, he shook everybody's hands on the Riverhounds side except for Danny Griffin. This is after a league investigation. It's crazy. Moral of the story is that don't go that far with players, okay? Especially when you're sitting that close. Don't go that far, period. There's no reason to do that. You're just going to cause problems. Whether it was premeditated or not, right? It's never good for the player is what my point is. And for society in general, because the discourse that unfolds because this maniac here, right? This is the guy in question. Look at that guy. I don't want to say that, he was asking for it, but I mean, certainly not on his side. But did he use a racial slur? So much so that you would go on your social media pages with 100,000 people and call for violence? take a picture of him and put big giant letters and say racial slur underneath? You have no clue. If his attorneys see that, if there's an investigation, which I'm sure who knows what the investigation is going to be? Like I trust, who trusts the NFL? Who trusts Roger Goodell? They're going to investigate this. They're not going to find anything. I'm sure they'll talk to, I'm sure they'll talk to quite a few people that were there. They probably have people's names and numbers and whatnot, right? They have the tracking system now with tickets. Everything is electronic. They could probably isolate 8, 10, 12, 15 people, do an investigation. What are they going to find? They're going to find probably it wasn't said. And yeah, the fans are a nut job. And yeah, he should probably never be allowed inside an NFL stadium ever again, right? Or any sporting event for that matter. But he's being called the worst things online, and he is being labeled a racist because that's how things work today. It's just insane. The world is just nuts, unfortunately. And here you have some things. Okay, we've got some comments. Ronnie, yes, it was Kenny Gainwell. Thank you. I kind of had a little brain stutter there. Thank you very much, Kenny Gainwell, with that touchdown catch. And then this is a comment coming in from Derpy. Pens suck and the Pirates moves didn't move the line. Only hope is the Steelers and Pittsburgh Sports. Got coming from Derpy via our YouTube channel. Gentlemen, thank you for chiming in. This is Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. I'm John Phillips. That's all I want to say about it, okay? If you don't know for certain, you don't call somebody a racist, okay? You don't put big giant photos that say racist slur on your social media channels, because all you're going to do is somebody's going to see that and maybe actually commit an act of violence, which you would probably enjoy because you're a deranged lunatic as well. But it's very ugly. It's ugly right now. That's why I avoid sporting events to save my life. Although, let's see, did I go to? I did go to a college bowl game last year. That was fun. I didn't have any skin in the game for either team, but it was definitely enjoyable. All right, let's talk about DK Metcalf specifically regarding the salary cap implications, because a lot of the talk yesterday was, hey, his contract could be voided and the Steelers could walk away from him and not have to pay a whole bunch of money. Well, Steeler Depot, to their credit, one of the Steeler blogs, they do a great job of just, covering the team and news in general. There are several good ones. I've certainly mentioned SteelerNation.com as well, but Steeler Depot is a good one. Steel City Blitz is another that you can check out for sure. But Steeler Depot had this today, and I don't know where they got this from, but it was on their own X account. And it was too long for me to screenshot, so I just basically kind of captured it and then sent it to myself. But this comes from Steeler Depot earlier in the day, and you have to really scroll to find this. This was posted probably around 11 or noon today. Might have been a little earlier than that. I mean, they've got like 880,000 tweets. That's a lot for an account to be getting close to 1 million. But they put out a ton of content, obviously. And this is what the note said regarding DK Metcalf, because there were some people saying, oh, bad decision on Metcalf's part, acting out, not what we need. Maybe the Steelers can get cut loose from him and it doesn't cost them a substantial amount of money. Well, somebody looked into the fine print of the DK Metcalf contract regarding voiding the guarantees. So they started with, for the 2026 base salary, which is $25 million. Okay, that was the only remaining fully guaranteed portion of the contract. The base salary for 2027 is $20 million. That's guaranteed with injury only. Okay, so the Steelers could cut him now theoretically or after the season and no longer be on the hook for the $25 million next year and any future money beyond that. But this is where things get complicated when it comes to contracts, okay? And this is the stuff that you don't see on the surface level of a tweet with 140 characters. Cutting Metcalf before June of next year, June 1st, would result in a dead money charge of $24 million. That's for next season. It would be a little less if the Steelers wanted to go after the prorated 2 games that he is going to be losing salary for. That includes the $30 million signing bonus he was given. Okay, that would not really give the Steelers any kind of real salary relief next year. Let's say that they wait until after June 1st, right? June 2nd, June 3rd. Let's say the Steelers decide they want to cut Metcalf after June 1st. They would still take a $6 million hit in dead money in 2026. It could be a little less, again, if they wanted to go after the prorated 2 games of the $30 million in the signing bonus he was given for this season. Plus, there would be an additional $18 million in dead money being charged to the team in 2027. That's for him being cut after June 1st. What it really comes down to is that the Steelers are most likely not going to cut Metcalf because of this particular incident. And also coupled with the notion that depending on when they would, if they wanted to cut him, you're talking about, a hit of some kind to your cap in dead money. So, is Metcalf at risk of getting cut if his play declines or he continues to be an issue for the team? Yeah, sure. He is due a $6.5 million roster bonus in March of 2027. That would essentially, as the tweet stated, it would be the next line in the sand when it comes to him possibly being out of a Steelers uniform. They finished it off by saying that cutting or trading Metcalf after 2026 and before 2027, before the roster bonus is due, would also result in a dead money charge of $18 million for 2027. Bottom line is DK Metcalf isn't going anywhere. He isn't going anywhere. And look, he's appealing the suspension right now, I believe. I don't know if the league will have a decision before Sunday. I still think that Baltimore will go into Green Bay and lose. They will go into Green Bay and lose, and this will all be moot. It'll just, if the league does hear the suspension, if they do hear his appeal and they can make a decision before, Sunday, that'll, kind of ice things off. Maybe he'll only get 1 game. I don't know. That's possible. A lot of people brought up the fact that at the, Bills and Ravens opener on Sunday Night Football that Lamar Jackson got into it with a fan in Buffalo and he didn't receive anything. He clearly got he clearly got his hands on a fan and nothing happened to Lamar. Not a 3-time MVP is DK Metcalf, right? He's certainly a talented player and a name to, for sure, but he's not on LJ8's level. So that's the story behind the cap right there with DK Metcalf. Look, I'm sure he's already had somebody sit down with him, right? I'm sure Tomlin, I'm sure Omar Khan, right? His agent, teammates have talked to him and say, hey, look, you got to put some earplugs in, man. You cannot allow a fan to impact you in that manner. That's big money. It's life-changing money, right? He wanted to be paid, and he got paid by the Steelers, which is a rarity in and of itself. The Steelers don't drop tons of all of a sudden this year. They've dropped all kinds of money. DK Metcalf, right? TJ Watt, making trades, bringing Aaron Rodgers in, which they caught a break on. Obviously, at the end of his career, it was 10 or 12 million. It's peanuts compared to what they've had the last 3 seasons at quarterback. But yeah, so there's the DK Metcalf stuff right there, a little further down the onion, right? When you peel back the layers of the onion, you start to see where all of the stench might come from regarding cutting DK Metcalf. That ended pretty quickly today, at least when I saw that. I thought to myself, there's no way that the Steelers are going to cut this guy, right? It's bad enough that they don't have a wide receiver too. They're going out and getting Adam Thielen, who's at 36, and MVS, who's been hopping around the league. They're desperate for a good wide receiver core. They're going to lose this poor guy for 2 games. Let's hope that the Ravens could lay an egg in Green Bay. Let's hope that they lay an egg in Green Bay, and then all of this will not matter. So that's my thought process on all of that. All right, Pittsburgh Sports Tonight rolling on. John Phillips here with you. You can leave comments on our Facebook or YouTube channels or on X. We're pleased you could be joining us tonight. We'll have some shows next week. No show tomorrow night for Pittsburgh Sports Desk. They are taking the Christmas Eve off, and they're taking New Year's Eve off. We will return as a group on Sunday with Steel City Sunday. We will start at 9 a.m. on Sunday, North Park Lounge, Richland. I have already talked to the restaurant. They're not going to forget us this time. We'll have a space to broadcast from. We had a big show planned too on Sunday. I was very disappointed, but cooler. We got out of there, and I was happy to get out of there because the poor GM, I don't think he was when I got to him and I said, "Hey, you got a space?" And after a couple minutes, he looked very frustrated. I said, "It's okay. This too shall pass. Just don't forget about us next week." So we'll have a show on Sunday at 9 a.m., 4 hours of pregame coverage. We'll have Paul Zeiss. We'll have Todd Haley, a bunch of other guests. I'm hoping to have Philly Godfather, a professional gambler for 40 years. Philly Godfather will be on Sunday. We'll have some other guests as well. Mike Oste, Zig Fracassi, who's battling health issues right now. Zig, I hope you are doing well, sir. I saw you put a little post up on Facebook, and hope things are coming along better for you. We get older, and our health becomes more of a problem. It's funny how that works. Okay, I hate to even do this because I am one of the people that just does not like talking about the Pirates. I have such a disdain for ownership and the organization just in general as a whole. But I will talk Pirates here for just a little bit. We will talk about the Penguins, who lost again this afternoon. They had an afternoon game against Toronto. We'll talk more about that in a little bit here. But the Pirates are trying, apparently, to be a contender in 2026. Apparently, they agreed to terms with all-star first baseman outfielder Ryan O'Hearn. 2 years, $29 million. He recently played with Baltimore. It's the first multi-year free agent deal the Pirates have put together since 2016. No question about it. They were a terrible offense last year, one of the worst in baseball. O'Hearn is 32. He had a pretty good season last year. His first All-Star selection, he set career highs with a batting average of .281. He hit 17 home runs. He had a WAR of 3.0. He's a left-hander. He'll DH, play first base. Not a tremendous amount of raw power, but he is a very steady on-base threat. And that is what you need. You need guys that can get on base. If you remember Moneyball, it was about getting on base, right? How many times can somebody get on base? He gets on base. When you get on base, you have a potential to score runs. That was the essential foundation to what Moneyball really came down to. And we've got some more comments coming in here. Per Adam Schefter, the NFL has upheld the suspension of DK Metcalf. That's from Ronnie Hunter on our YouTube channel. Thank you very much, Ronnie. I'm going to scroll around X and see if I can see that anywhere as well. As DK Metcalf going to have to serve his 2-game suspension. So that's according to Adam Schefter. So the league acted pretty quickly on that. And if that's the case, then, you got to do better, DK Metcalf. You got to do better. You got to do better for your family. You got to do better for yourself as a person. You got to just not listen to people that are in the stands. It's never a good, it's never going to end well for a player, generally speaking, in situations like that. And again, not defending the fan. He's a maniac and should have never been in the building. I blame the Lions and the league and security for allowing that to even happen. A lot of people failed on Sunday. DK Metcalf probably being, you know, he's near the top, but I really believe that the league and the team, the Detroit Lions organization, and security that was close by failed. I think they failed in that scenario there. They've got to be better. They've got to be. What's the sense of what are you doing wearing a yellow jacket for security if you're not paying attention to stuff like that? A fan, a player. I'm not condoning any of the actions on all parties, but this could have been avoided had some people been doing their jobs a little bit better. Anyhow, back to the Pirates we go. God, I can't even believe I said that. O'Hearn is it's been a busy winter for the Pirates. We'll give them some credit. They got Brandon Lowe. They've picked up Jake Mangum. They picked up Mason Montgomery, a left-handed pitcher. That was part of a 3-team trade. They're trying to make some moves. So, look, are they going to sign somebody to a $300 million contract? No. They're never going to be that team. They're never going to pay somebody $40 million a year. It's never going to happen. Not in any lifetime. Okay? Market size, whatever you call it, ownership, right? They want to make a splash. This is them making a splash. It's like a minnow in a tiny puddle, right? This will probably still be a 90-loss team next year with the best pitcher in baseball and a pretty good rotation. Pirates had a pretty good rotation last year. They couldn't provide any run support for it. And yet somehow Paul Skeens wins the Cy Young. He's just counting the days down to when he can get to free agency. It's terrible. It really is, because he's absolutely brilliant. Having watched him pitch live twice, he's the real deal. You can't deny it. And when that kind of guy starts talking about, going elsewhere or just, disappointment, ownership trying to show him that they are committed to at least trying to improve. And that's what you need from your ownership groups. You want them to win. You want them to go out and try to find ways to spend money. They have to be somewhat creative. I'm not saying that they can't. If this team wanted to go out and spend $20 million on somebody, they could, but they won't. Right? A year, I might add. I'm talking about $20 million a year. What does that buy you in baseball today? Well, $15 million a year buys you Ryan O'Hearn, who hit 17 home runs last year. So, I mean, is that a splash? I guess. Is that something that I can say, ooh, get me a 20-game plan? Nope. No, I will not go to a game next year. I might do some pregame shows outside the stadium if I can find the sponsorship, but I'm not going to pay to go see this team. I'm not going to go pay. I'm not putting money in Bob Nutting's pocket. I'm just not going to do it. And I know that's kind of contradictory because I do talk a little bit about sports now, not just the Steelers. But we'll see. Let's just, the offseason is going to continue to play out. Let's see what else they might flush out in terms of free agents. Not to mention the fact that, and I think this doesn't get talked about enough, players just don't want to come here, right? Let's just say that ownership here would be willing to spend $200 million on a roster. Okay. $200 million on a roster. You might ask yourself, what does that buy you? What was the average, if you look up MLB roster. If you look up salaries, okay, for 2025, what did the rosters look like in 2025? Well, you start with the Dodgers, right? Defending champs, two-time defending champs, $321 million.